I'm here at Eastercon 2017 with Adrian Tchaikovsky, just following up on last year when we spoke to you at Mancunicon, because there's been a lot that's happened since then.
Yeah, I've had a very busy year.
Yeah, yeah. Foremost amongst that was winning the Arthur C. Clarke Award, yeah, which was obviously a massive award to win for science fiction.
And yeah, with a massive surprise, to be honest. I mean, with a very strong shortlist. And my own, if I'd been a betting man, my own money would have been between, I think, probably the Becky Chambers and the Dave Hutchinson for.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Dave actually has, of course, won the BSFA yesterday for Europe and Winter, which is grand.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it came entirely out of left field because I'd written a book about spiders in space, and I didn't, even when writing it, I didn't really feel that was going to appeal necessarily to anyone except me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you like that more fantastical side of things in science fiction, yeah?
I like the inhuman in science fiction, I suppose. I mean, whether it's artificial intelligence or whether it's aliens or anything like that, that's very much my jam, I suppose.
It's good to get that kind of recognition of especially in science fiction, which these days it's becoming a lot more prominent for smarter science fiction, yeah?
We're seeing a lot more sort of what I'd call serious science fiction in the cinema, for example.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of more public interest in space, space exploration, the possibility of life, exoplanets, that kind of thing. So it seems logical that there's going to be a shift in the literature towards a more of a readership for that kind of that end of science fiction. I mean, we're in a period now when we're talking seriously about potentially people going to Mars and staying on Mars for protracted periods of time. In a sense that we can actually accomplish this in the near future, and I think that's. And there's a sense that there is a commercial possibility of asteroid mining or something like that. So, yeah, I mean it's been a while. Obviously, the space race died down, and I think people have not been looking at the sky in that way for quite a long time. So, it's very exciting to be in a time when, in my lifetime, we could see that kind of real development. I mean, barring some quite spectacular results from, say, Enceladus or Europa, I suspect we're not going to be finding life outside the Earth within my lifetime. But you can dream.
Arrival is about finding alien life, but alien life finding us, if you like, and it not being what we expected. Do you think it's as much about current events in real life that people are looking for, that escape of looking out there for hope, if you like?
There's a kind of a theory that science fiction is, or that kind of space science fiction, I suppose, rather than say near future dystopias or something or anything like that, but that it is an optimistic, forward-looking genre, whereas fantasy is a comforting, nostalgic genre. I think that's probably a gross simplification, and I've got to say I don't feel that current world politics are optimistic or forward-looking.
Yeah.
And so I suppose you've got the rather grim thought of, well, are we looking at space because we may have to all go there at some point if we sufficiently ruin things here? And is that why there's more of a push towards space?
Yeah, yeah. So do you feel that maybe there needs to be a bit more in terms of science fiction, like exploring futures where we're actually repairing Earth and repairing the situation we're in?
Well, I mean, there's a fair amount of that. I mean, Bacigalupi is one of the masters of that, the kind of the climate-based science fiction, and his stuff is colossally depressing, to be honest, because it's so plausibly realised. And I mean, I think it's interesting that he's written quite a lot of his stuff for the young adult market, because I think he's saying, well, that's the generation that really is going to have to fix stuff. So he's kind of prepping people to be thinking in that kind of way. I think it's very easy to get to the point where as a science fiction writer, where you're looking at the solutions to world problems and trying to think, well, barring sort of magic superpowers and things like that, it's kind of hard to see a particularly plausible solution. And I think it's interesting that there's actually quite a lot of fantasy writing these days, which is sort of post-apocalypse fantasy.
Yeah.
Whether it's climatic, I mean, the fifth season is a really good example of that. Nora Jameson, and where you do have potential magic solutions to the destruction of the world, because we're getting to the point where magic seems to be what would be needed to fix things.
I mean, do you think that science fiction writers can help in that way?
I would like to think so. I mean, like I said, I think it's... If I was asked to write an optimistic book set in the near future, where we were to fix these problems without completely changing sort of human civilization, I think I would find it quite a taxing project.
Yeah, yeah.
To come up with something that was plausible and conceivable for that.
Well, there's a challenge for you. At the minute, you've been working on, well, you've got a lot of novellas and shorter form of things that you've been doing. Was that a conscious decision or just something that's happened?
I think it's just a matter of what individual projects are calling for. So, for example, I'm working with New Compress on a series of volumes of shorter Shadows of the Apt fiction. I'm just finishing off the third volume of that. Is going to be a set of 4 linked novellas, 3 of which will be completely new to that volume, which will be a kind of a pulp, sort of almost like a 19th century pulp adventure, Alan Quatermain type story. And I've got another novella which is a near future science fiction one coming out from Solaris about November this year, called Ironclads, which was written a while ago, and certainly before sort of the current stuff in America or in the UK, but does weirdly involve an American invasion of Sweden and the British secession from the EU, although it was written before the vote.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm feeling particularly prophetic.
Yeah, oh, no, yeah, it's not the kind of prophecy you want to come true, but yeah.
Well, I suspect it's a lot easier to make bad prophecies, accurate bad prophecies.
So, but obviously, staying in that world of Children of the Apt, it's obviously a world you're very fond of and you like returning to.
It's because I put so much work into it, and because there's so much of that world that I haven't, the main books didn't really get a chance to touch. I find it enormously enjoyable to just go back and fill out those areas and send characters to visit those areas that we didn't get to see in the main volumes, and just expand the world. Yeah. And there's always another horizon for that particular world. It just keeps going.
Yeah. I suppose, yes, you can. So once you create a world, it takes on a life of its own, and like you say, it keeps expanding out, and you want to keep exploring that. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's a nice thing to be able to go back to, because it's quite a comfortable one to write in, because I'm so familiar with it. Recently I've begun to appreciate. I think writing science fiction is a more demanding thing, because I'm quite conscientious about the science, and I like to feel that, to the limit of my own knowledge at least, I'm getting it right. And the same, I did a historical piece at the beginning of the year, and that had the same thing of, I wanted to get it in a position where it wouldn't be immediately sort of torn apart by the first historian to come across it.
Yeah.
Whereas with fantasy, it's a matter of more of being internally consistent. So once you've got your own rules set up, you can kind of relax into it a bit more.
Well, Adrian, thanks very much for talking to us again. It's great that such exciting things have been happening for you, and congrats on the award, and good luck.
Thank you very much.